The invisible DJ. It all begins not in a studio, but in silence. One tap, play, and somewhere an invisible algorithm decides what you'll hear next. The beat you tap your foot to. The artist you'll fall in love with. The song that will define your summer. You didn't choose it, Spotify did. Every day, over 100,000 new songs are uploaded worldwide. Amid this flood of content, one company's algorithm quietly determines which tracks matter. Spotify, the Swedish platform that started as a solution to music piracy, now shapes global music culture. It predicts your taste even before you are aware of it. But who controls the algorithm that controls your music? How did a small European startup transform into the most powerful force in modern sound, deciding who becomes a star and who fades into digital noise? This is the story of Spotify, the company that rewired the music industry and built a billion-dollar machine that listens better than humans ever could. Subscribe and stay until the end for insights into the algorithm that changed how the world hears music. Out of the noise, the birth of Spotify, 2006 to 2008. Stockholm, Sweden, 2006. The world's music industry was collapsing. Napster had been shut down. LimeWire faced federal lawsuits. CD sales were plummeting, and piracy was rampant, especially in Europe. For record labels, each illegal download felt like another nail in the coffin. For 23-year-old programmer Daniel Ek, the chaos represented opportunity. Already a millionaire from selling his ad tech startup Advertigo, Ek had wealth but lacked purpose. In a 2018 interview with Fast Company, he reflected, "I was living the dream, expensive car, fancy apartment, yet I felt empty." Around the same time, Martin Lorentzen, founder of TradeDoubler, one of Europe's largest digital marketing firms, shared Ek's vision. They asked themselves, what if music could be free, legally? Ek envisioned a platform faster than piracy but safer for artists. "You can't compete with free unless you make something better," he would later explain. In a small Stockholm apartment in Ragst, Ek and a handful of developers began coding what would become Spotify, a name derived from spot and identify. Their mission: instant access to every song ever recorded without owning a single file. Spotify's secret weapon wasn't just its music catalog. It was its streaming model. Instead of downloading tracks, users streamed directly from Spotify servers, allowing near-zero wait times and eliminating file storage, revolutionary in 2007. Early prototypes loaded songs in less than 200 milliseconds, faster than YouTube or iTunes at the time. But securing music rights required record labels, a formidable challenge. After billions lost to piracy, labels were skeptical. Yet Spotify's pitch was different. It wouldn't replace labels. It would save them. By offering free, ad-supported streaming alongside a premium subscription, Spotify promised revenue from listeners who would otherwise pirate music. After years of negotiation, in 2008, Spotify signed licensing deals with Universal, Sony, EMI, and Warner. On October 7, 2008, Spotify launched in Sweden, the UK, France, Spain, and Norway. Users experienced something magical. Click, play, instant music. Behind the clean interface, however, Spotify's systems were quietly collecting data. Every skip, replay, playlist addition, or pause became part of a vast pool of information. This data would eventually allow Spotify to predict and influence global taste. The revolution had begun. The Swedish Revolution, from piracy to streaming. By the mid-2000s, Sweden was quietly becoming the epicenter of a digital music revolution. While the world battled the aftermath of Napster and LimeWire, Daniel Ek saw opportunity where others saw problems. Music piracy wasn't just crime. It was a signal of demand for instant, convenient access. Together with Martin Lorentzen, Ek aimed to build a legal platform that was as fast and free as piracy. Spotify's goal went beyond convenience. Ek wanted to make all the world's music available instantly and legally. Convincing record labels was another challenge. Many executives had been burned by previous digital ventures. Eck and Lawrenson flew to London, New York, and Los Angeles to pitch their vision. Labels were cautious, but Eck's model offered per-stream payments plus a free, ad-supported tier, a compromise that could win back pirates legally. Spotify launched as an invite-only service in Europe on October 7, 2008. The experience was transformative. Songs that once took minutes to download now played instantly, virus-free, with no waiting. Swedish journalist Jan Gradvall wrote, "Spotify didn't just change how we listen to music, it changed our relationship with it." Despite its innovation, the model was fragile. Spotify initially operated at a loss, paying the majority of revenue to labels. Yet Eck believed in scale. The more people streamed, the more predictable the business became. "We weren't trying to kill piracy, we were trying to make something better than piracy," he said. The algorithm that listens better than you. By 2011, Spotify wasn't just another music service. It was a data machine. Every tap, skip, replay, and playlist addition fed into an enormous database of human emotion. Spotify had found its true superpower: data. The platform wasn't built around albums or charts. It was built around behavior. It learned from how long you listened, what you saved, when you stopped, and even what time of day you pressed play. To manage this, Spotify created one of the most advanced recommendation systems ever designed: the recommendation engine. Using collaborative filtering, neural networks, and natural language processing, it analyzed not only what people listened to but how they listened. The crown jewel of this system was Discover Weekly, launched in 2015. Every Monday, Spotify created a personalized 30-song playlist for each user, generated by machine learning, refined by billions of data points. It was a hit. Over 40 million users began their week with Discover Weekly. What had once been the job of radio DJs or music journalists was now handled by an algorithm that could predict taste with eerie precision. Yet this power came with consequences. As the algorithm grew smarter, it began shaping musical trends, determining not just what people liked, but what they would like. Artists started tailoring their songs to fit algorithmic logic. Shorter intros, earlier hooks, and steady rhythms optimized for playlist retention. A new kind of hit was born, not crafted for radio, but for the algorithm. As one producer told Rolling Stone, "We're not writing for people anymore, we're writing for playlists." Spotify's AI had quietly become the most influential tastemaker on Earth. The new gatekeepers, artists versus algorithms. By 2017, Spotify had become the largest music streaming platform in the world, surpassing Apple Music and Amazon. But behind the growth was a quiet rebellion. Independent artists, who once saw Spotify as liberation from record labels, began realizing a new hierarchy had emerged. It wasn't the label executives deciding hits anymore. It was the algorithm. To break on Spotify, artists needed to land on one of its flagship playlists: Rap Caviar, Today's Top Hits, or Mint. These playlists, each with tens of millions of followers, could turn an unknown musician into a global star overnight. But access was limited. Playlist placements were controlled by a mix of editorial curators and machine-driven data, leading some to call Spotify the new radio. Artists began reverse engineering the system, optimizing songs for skip rate, energy levels, and playlist compatibility. The platform rewarded consistency and metrics over experimentation. Critics argued that Spotify was flattening creativity, pushing music toward a homogeneous, algorithm-friendly sound. A 2020 MIT Technology Review article warned, "When algorithms decide taste, art becomes math." Yet Spotify insisted it was democratizing music. "The algorithm gives everyone a chance," Daniel Ek said. "If people connect with your song, data will find it." Still, the paradox was clear. To reach the masses, artists had to please the machine. Billions in data, millions in disputes. Success didn't come without controversy. Spotify's royalty system paid artists per stream, but the rates were notoriously low. On average, one stream paid between $0.003 and $0.005, meaning an artist needed roughly 250,000 streams to earn $1,000. Major artists like Taylor Swift and Thom Yorke criticized the model, arguing that it devalued music. Swift pulled her catalog in 2014, writing, "Music is art, and art has value." Spotify countered that it wasn't devaluing art, it was changing the economy of attention. Instead of ownership, the company was selling access. As subscribers grew, so did revenue, but profits remained elusive. In 2018, Spotify went public on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker SPOT, valued at nearly $30 billion. It was a triumph for ECH, but also a warning. Investors now demanded growth over idealism. To expand, Spotify began betting on podcasts, signing exclusive deals with creators like Joe Rogan, Meghan Markle, and the Obamas. Music wasn't enough anymore. Spotify wanted to own the world's listening time. The mission evolved, from music company to audio company. When the machine learns to create, 2020 to 2025. As artificial intelligence advanced, Spotify's next evolution was inevitable. It wouldn't just recommend music, it would help create it. In 2023, Spotify introduced AI DJ, an experimental feature using OpenAI-powered voice synthesis. It could speak directly to users, analyzing their history and mood to create a customized radio experience with commentary. That sounded human. Listeners described it as creepy but addictive. At the same time, generative AI models began composing original music indistinguishable from human work. Songs like Heart on My Sleeve, an AI-generated collaboration between Drake and The Weeknd, went viral before being removed due to copyright disputes. The event sparked global debate. Who owns a song when no human wrote it? Spotify's response was cautious. It banned thousands of AI-generated tracks, but continued researching machine-assisted composition tools for artists. Behind the scenes, its R&D teams were building models capable of predicting what kind of music will go viral next. The line between listener and creator was blurring, and Spotify stood at the center of it all. Today, Spotify has over 600 million users across more than 180 countries. What began as a fight against piracy became a global empire powered by data. Daniel Ek no longer calls Spotify a music company. "We're in the business of moments," he says. "We don't sell songs, we sell emotion, time, and connection." But as AI grows stronger and algorithms shape culture in real time, one question remains. If machines know what we'll love before we do, who's really choosing the soundtrack of our lives? Maybe the real revolution isn't about what we hear, but who decides what's worth hearing? Spotify, the algorithm that changed the sound of the world. A documentary by Icons&Chaos. Subscribe for new documentaries every Tuesday and Thursday.